Sure.
So, hello everybody. Sorry for our delay. I would like to introduce you our guest from today. This is Professor Moshe Inbar. He's the professor of zoology in the University of Haifa. Today, he is going to share with us his talk about interactions between mammalian and insect herbivores. I would like to thank Professor Moshe for accepting our invitation. And whenever you're ready, you can start.
Okay. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Daniela. I met Daniela during my recent visit to Rio last year. I have several connections with very good Brazilian scientists, especially those working on gold-forming insects, both in Rio and in Belo and others. But I will use here because it's not really entomology, your department or your institute, to rather more broad ecological, presumably new directions of animal-plant interactions. Next slide, please. Okay, this is where I am and where you are, approximately. I'm from the Middle East. Now it's 15 minutes after 10 p.m. It's in the northern hemisphere, just about to have the winter. And this is the Middle East. Haifa is in northern Israel. Maybe you recently heard in the news on the TV on the place I come from, very tough neighborhood. Next slide, please. And yeah, okay. But I will go straight and talk about the topic today. Many of you work on plant ecology, as I assume, different aspects of plant ecology or ecology in general. And we know that the main interaction between animals and plants is that animals eat plants. And they are very common. And we are dealing today with two groups, two guilds of herbivores. One on the right-hand side are the insect, the small ones, and on the left one are the big ones. And there are many differences between these two, not only in terms of size, but they both potentially share the same host plant. Next slide, please. Okay. There are two ways by which these two guilds of animals may interact each other when they use or feed or use the same host plant. One on the left received much attention. It's the indirect interactions. One animal is feeding on the plant, changing its distribution, chemistry, phenology, anatomy, whatever, affecting the other one. Usually the big ones have negative effect on the small ones. But there is another option that received less attention. You're lost. I don't see the presentation.
Okay.
Maybe another one. Let's continue. Okay. Now, the direct interactions received very little attention. They did receive attention when the insects are inside confound plant organs, like when they are in seeds or fruits or galls. But most of the insects are free feeders. They are exposed, they are on the plant, and it's very difficult to see what is their fate and what is the interaction is all about. Next, please. I don't remember what's the next. Next, please. I'll cut short some of it. Yeah, and most of the insects that feed on the plants, and we are talking about many insects, are free feeders. They are exposed. They are caterpillars or aphids or whatever. What I'm going to do in this presentation, to give you an example of direct interactions between mammalian and insect herbivores, and we will understand about its importance due to the mechanisms that are involved in this kind of mechanism, in this kind of interactions. First, we will look at one example from the insect perspective. Insect on the plant, and the mammal is coming, the problem of the insect. Then I will look at the mammalian perspective, how they look at it, an example. And then at the end, I'll show you some approaches about trying to quantify and to understand these interactions at the population level, not one-on-one at the population. So let's start with the insect perspective. And I unfortunately no videos this time because it was too heavy. Please, next one. And the insect in this case would be aphid, as small as we can get. Aphids are very, very small, very rare in the tropics, so you are less aware of them. They are not very common in the tropics, especially in the neotropics. Very tiny insects. They are fluent feeders. They reproduce very fast. Parthenogenetically, they cause lots of damage. And in many cases, they have no wings. They cannot go anywhere. So next slide, please. And our model organism is the pea aphid. It's very important aphid. You can see the female, they reproduce parthenogenetically, the small ones. They don't need males, and they reproduce very fast. So this is the pea aphid. And the pea aphid is on the plant, feeding happily. And then, next slide, this guy is coming. Now think that you are an aphid, and this hungry guy is coming to your plant. Probably the last thing that you can see on Earth is the next slide, please. This would be the last thing that you're going to see, because it will take a bite on the plant. They are usually on alfalfa plants that mammalian herbivores would like very much to feed on. And the question we asked is what is the fate of the aphids when the hungry goat as a model animal is coming to feed on the plant. Next slide, please. What we figure out, I will take you through the development of the research from the beginning to the end. What we have seen pretty much soon, then when a mammalian herbivore is approaching the plant with the aphids will drop immediately to the ground. Now, you have to understand that the aphids do not want to leave the plant. The plant is everything for them. But as the mammalian approach the plant, they drop in very large numbers and immediately. Next slide, please. And aphids can drop off the plant. I cannot pinpoint on the figure, but in the red bars you can see aphids dropping from the plant when a parasitic wasp is coming and trying their enemies. They drop here and there slowly. But look at the blue bar. When mammalian herbivore, in this case it's my exhalation, my bad breath, coming near them, they all drop 80%. More than 80% of the aphids will drop immediately within a second to the ground. And of course, the question is, why they do it? Is it adaptive? And how they can identify the risk, because they do not want to drop off the plant unless it's really dangerous. Next slide, please. So what are the cues? How they sense it? It should be a reliable cue. They don't want to leave the plant unless it's very critical. Next, please. So we thought at the beginning it's the movement of the air, of the exhalation that dropped them. So we made controlled experiment in the lab with this kind of device that push air on the aphids, put the aphids on the single aphid on the plant. Nothing happened. They didn't drop. Next slide, please. Actually, what the aphid would do when they feel the air coming into them, they will move to the other side of the plant, clean down, hold to the plant, and never drop. So it's not the physical movement of the air of the approaching mammal. Next, please. Then we build this kind of a device. The single aphid is on the right. It's in the lab. And this is a device when we control air parameters. And we can try different parameter of air with very mild velocity of air movement, because it's not the strength of the air, of the movement of the air that drop them, but rather something else, and try to put in the machine different materials that we suspect that will cause aphids to drop. And what kind, let's see what kind of materials we tried. Next one, please. So I thought it will be carbon dioxide, because we all excel high levels of carbon dioxide. But no, you see on the right hand side, no dropping. Zeros on the table, nothing. And we used many volatile compounds that, for example, mosquitoes and bugs and ticks use to attract to mammalian. So we thought that maybe the same cues can be identified by the aphids to identify the mammals and drop off the plant. None of them caused the aphid dropping. To make a long story short, next one, please. Look at the red line below. Only when the aphid sense immediate pulse of moderate air movement, which is high relative humidity, like we excel, and a temperature of 37 degrees centigrade, look at the red mark on the left-hand side, 100% humidity, and 36 to 37 degrees temperature, only this combination triggered the aphids to leave the host plant immediately before any contact is made with the mammal. Next line, please. Am I fully understood? Do you understand me? Yeah, so far is it clear? So if we look at the middle, what is causing mass colony dropping of the aphids when they are all? You can see on the left, only when the combination of heat and humidity and other parameters such volatility, carbon dioxide will never cause dropping. You see the wind and the sudden visual and vibration may contribute if they are added to the heat and humidity, but themselves alone, they won't cause any trigger to fall off the plant. Next one, please. So think of it, if you are a small aphid, and you need a reliable cue, why heat and humidity will be reliable? First, it's only caused by endothermic vertebrates and birds. We work with birds. Birds are not important. Secondly, it's very general. Very general. It could be a goat. It could be a giraffe. It could be me or you or a cow. It is effective day and night. And most importantly, if you think about as human beings, it is not affected but what the animal ate before. It cannot be masked by garlic, by chili, that people can make you drop dead when they give you. So it is not masked by the diet of the mammal before. So it's highly reliable. Next, please. I'm making it short. But the main question is it effective? Is it effective? Is it on time before the hungry goat is coming to feed on the plant, can eat them all? Is it fast enough? So we conducted a very high-tech experiment. Next slide, please. You bring a hungry goat, you put aphid colony, you clean, you put sand so you can identify the little dropping aphids, and you let the goat in. It's one bite and say, hey, nobody's going to survive this. It's one bite and the plant is gone. Surprisingly, the next slide, please. These are two aphid species. The replicate is a colony of aphids, so we have 18 colonies and 16 colonies. And as you can see, we were able to recover to find intact aphids on the ground. 70 to 80% of the aphids were able to escape predation by the mammal. So it is very effective, highly effective. Most of them were able to survive, drop to the ground. Next, please. Next, please. I'll skip that. Interestingly enough, and this is why I also always encourage the graduate students, I think most of you are postdocs among the audience, to look carefully, to open their eyes, to look differently. So one of the students, he told me that the aphids, when they drop to the ground, they always land on their feet like cats, with the foot down. And as you can see on the right-hand side, regardless to their initial position, when they drop off the plant, after few milliseconds, they always turn down with their foot down. Always. Many million of years before the cats. Unfortunately, I have no videos. Daniela, next time when I come to Brazil, I'll come with the videos because you have to see the videos. Otherwise, you cannot believe me. And the other things that I'm going to show. So next, please. Next. Okay. So you know why they drop to the ground? Unfortunately, I don't have it in the videos. When they drop with their foot down, they're able to cling, to catch lower leaves and never reach the ground if they have enough leaves below. And these are the old leaves below that the mammals do not like. So they can still stay on lower plant parts, never reaching the ground. The ground is very hazardous to them. I make it really short without the videos. It's late and we had some technical problems, but everything is what so far is published. Now let's take one look from the mammalian perspective, okay? I brought this picture because of the New World, but not in Brazil. In the north, in the Andes, this is a llama. Let's take a mammalian perspective. Next one, please. Now think that you're a mammal. You are in the grazing habitat. And let's say that you don't like or want to control the way if you have caterpillars or other insects on your plant. By the way, the goats don't care whether they have aphids on the plant or not. But maybe they do care if there are other insects on the plant. So in this model study, we used, again, goats and cows and caterpillars of the spring wormworm, which is very common in grazing habitats. Okay, these are the pairs that we're investigating now. And now we are looking for the perspective of the mammal. Maybe they care positively or negatively by the presence of the caterpillars on the plant. Next one, please. And surprisingly, I thought that if we go to the literature, we will find a very clear answer to this question. And I would like to ask you before I give you the results. I didn't see anything in the literature before we conducted this experiment. If you are a mammalian herbivore, a goat or a cow, and you have this choice, what would you do? Think to yourself. There are several options. One, you don't care. One, you do care. You go to the left-hand side to get some proteins. Or you don't like the proteins and you go to the right-hand side. What do you think happened? I'll show you the results soon, but think for a second. It's a very simple question on direct interaction, a common interaction that can happen in the field. Obviously, the results here are not for all pair of mammal and insect herbivores, but there was no one answer to this question before we did the experiment. So you have your opinion what would happen if a goat or a cow will have this choice? Okay, you had your own. Now I'll show you what happened. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. This is what happened. I'll explain what you see. First, they go to the right-hand side, no caterpillars. They don't want the caterpillars and eat everything. And then they go back to the left dish. And surprisingly, it's a goat and a cow. They eat most of the grass, but don't touch the caterpillars. Unfortunately, I don't have the video to show you how they do it. No forks, no knives. They eat very fast. I'm really sad that you cannot see it on the video, but they can screen. They go to the plant. They don't want the caterpillars. The caterpillars are toxic and they are all over the place, and they don't swallow or bite even one. And they eat very fast day and night. Next slide, please. They don't touch the caterpillars, many goats, many replicates, and they do many things. They can probe, we check all the senses. They shake the plants, they let go some of they trim, they spit in rare cases. They use very many they use several senses and feeding mechanism to filter all the caterpillars. Next slide, please. I don't know what I have next. Maybe I can explain it. For example, if you want to make it even harder on the goat, and you tie the insect to the plant so they cannot get rid of them. They eat it like you eat macaroni. They take the grass. When they reach, they sense the caterpillars. They cut the piece of and let go. They do very nice and very effective ways and senses to screen and filter the undesired insect, in this case the caterpillars that is on the plant. What I'm trying to stress that if you have such a sophisticated mechanism, one from the insect perspective and one from the mammal perspective, that means that these direct interactions are very frequent. They require adaptations. Next slide, please. So we want to see how they screen them. So first of all, they use their lips to find places without caterpillars. And then they do the trimming like I showed you in the previous picture. And then they could even shake the plant to get rid of the caterpillars. And only in very rare cases, very rare, when the caterpillar enters their mouth, they spit it. But it's very rare. Few times. Next one, please. How they sense it. How the hell, sorry for the expression, even in dark, they sense them. How they can sense them. Please, the next one. Go ahead. They can see, they potentially see, smell, touch, and taste. Okay? So we test each one of the senses because they are very efficient. Next slide, please. For example, if we want to know whether they see it or not, we block the eyes of the goat on the left-hand side. We use like a dentist. We use a cream that anesthetizes the lips so they cannot touch, not feel the touching. We can use smell blocking, like they use for cows to prevent male from smelling the female so they can relax. So we can sense, we can control for all senses on the mammal and see what is working. What do you think is the most important sense before I show you the results? Next slide, please. So the most important one is the touch by the lips. Visual and smell is not important at all. Don't forget, they are active day and night. They feed also at night, so rely on sight, or sometimes most time the insects are on the lower side of the leaf. Sight is not important, not the smell, because some plants are smelly. If they rely on smell, maybe they don't get it. So it's the touch of the lips. This is the way they screen and avoid. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. I'll skip that. But we were really interested at the population level. We can go for pairs of insects and mammals forever. What is the effect at the population levels? Who are vulnerable to this kind of interaction and those that are less? And we thought, how are we going to make it? How are we going to test it? Because we were the first one, may I say, that approached this kind of problem, the importance of direct interactions. Hey, don't misunderstand me. The indirect interaction is much more important. When a mammal comes and feed on the entire plant and there is nothing to eat, it's much more important, but it's well studied. We are dealing with the direct interactions. So we took a different approach that I want to share with you. Remember, we always start as ecologists, we'll use our eyes, our senses to see what's going on out in the field, make a hypothesis, and then try to find a way to solve the problem. This is what I urge you to do. Look at your system. Look at your animals and plants. Look at them in the field or in the lab. Look like hunters. Look for the idea. Try to think differently, and then you have a hypothesis, you will find a way to test it, preferably by experiments. So we adopted a different approach to look at the population level, who is vulnerable or not in the grazing system. Daniela, how much time I have?
About 10 minutes. About 10 minutes, okay?
For you 12. Okay. So next slide, please. I'll do it really fast. Now we move to more recent studies at the population level, and it's the first one of its kind study. So next slide, please. Next, please. Yeah, okay. Next one, we did it in Israel in a grazing ecosystem, this time with cows. And we thought, how are we going to see who is eaten or not? So we collected the insect with the field with this suction trap that you see on the right-hand side. And to see who is ingested or not, we took the feces of the cows, extract the DNA, did the meta-barcoding DNA. I don't have the time to explain. And then with bioinformatic tools, identify the insect that they feed on and compare it to the one that were able to escape, those one with the suction traps, okay? So next, please. And this was quite surprising. This is the process of environmental DNA process of meta-barcoding. I'll skip that. Next. And look at the food chain that I'm going to describe that we found in the feces of a grazing cow in a grazing ecosystem in the wild. So the cow is drinking and feeding. We are collecting the feces. Let's see the food web in their feces. Next slide, please. 50, not surprisingly, 56 of the DNA was for arthropods that we identified. They come for the feces. They're not being eaten. They are attracted to the feces. Next, please. Yeah, for example, the flies that you are familiar with. Next. 2% were insects, water insects, that were swallowed when the cow was drinking in the river. Next, please. Chironomids, some kind of flies, beetles. We were able to identify them, swallowed while drinking, incidentally, not deliberately. Next slide, please. Uh, 7% we cannot assign for any guild. We don't know. And what about 35% of the DNA in the feces? Look at this food web. Next slide, please. It's herbivores. And the enemies, predator of parasites of the herbivores that were eaten and identified in the feces of the cows. So we have, let's say, caterpillars and their parasitic wasps inside. We had a food chain that we could identify that is incidentally ingested by the cows. Next, please. And we can identify the insect that most of them obviously were lepidopterans and herbivorous coleopterans and some hemipterans. So we were able to who are the vulnerable, who are the one at the population levels that are affected by the grazing, affected directly because they were not able to escape like the aphids before, or avoided by the cows because they are toxic. Next, please. Next, you can go next. These are some examples. Next. Many mites. And these are the predators. Lots of spiders were swallowed, and antlions and predatory beetles, etc. A full food web. Next, please. And the parasites, especially of the caterpillars. They are inside the caterpillars, swollen, incidentally. We can identify them. Next, please. By the way, most of the vulnerable one, next slide, please. Next one, please. So this is the food web that we reconstructed in the field, looking at the effect of the population. Next one. Next slide, please. And this is a very important one because here we compare what we found in the feces and what is done out there in the field with the suction traps. And you can see, for example, with the vacuum, which is in green, and sequencing the feces, which is in yellow, look at the one that are rarely ingested on the left-hand side. Those that are rarely ingested. They are the aggressive ones, the toxic ones, or the very mobile ones, those that can fly and move and jump. They are they are very rarely found, those on the left-hand side. For example, grasshoppers that can fly, or ants that are aggressive, or the caterpillars that are toxic. And those that are vulnerable are the immobile on the right-hand side. Those that are immobile. Next slide, please. Next. These are the toxic ones or the mobile ones that can, and the jumping ones, they can escape. Next one. Next, please. So the vulnerable would be the not vulnerable on the right-hand side, the mobile, toxic, noxious, etc. On the left-hand side, those that are vulnerable are those that are immobile, for example, larvae or pupa. Those that are feeding inside the plant, boring, making galls, leaf miners, they cannot escape. So we could see the effect at the population level. Next, please. And this is experiment that we did in China. That was it's very effective. I show you, for example, how food web or in the field is very complex. One little anecdote from previous year. This is a field experiment in China in a grazing system with yak, with sheep, with cattle. Look, next one. Next, please. And what we found there, it was published in the Proceedings B just previous year, the grasshoppers, when they are escaping the grazing goats or sheep, they jump, and the swallows, the birds, are waiting for them. So you used to see herons walking next to the cattle looking for the insects. The swallows, they go around the cattle looking for the jumping grasshoppers, flying very low and catching them. So if you escape one hazard, you're still maybe vulnerable to a different adaptive predator, which is the swallows, these birds that swarm next to the cows. Next, please. I'm about to finish. We had the hypothesis that about the future, okay? The last slides, that maybe if they swallow so many insects, maybe they gain some benefit, microminerals, proteins, whatever. We framed out the hypothesis that mammalian herbivores, like you, if you are vegetarian, you need to take some supplements. So maybe these insects that they consume are the supplements from different feeding yields, give them the supplementary. But it is still the hypothesis that need to be tested more carefully in the future. That's what we're going to do. Next slide, please. And the one that came just a few months ago from a very good journal called Environmental DNA. It's because now environmental DNA is very important. I don't want to get into details, but you know, it is very challenging in Africa, in many places, to see what a mammalian is feeding in the field, to observe them migrating in the night. So what we did, I won't have the time to get into the details. We saw that environmental DNA is very efficient in non-destructive method to accurately identify the diet of mammalian herbivores, the big mammals, in the field. You don't need to catch them or to observe them with a binocular day and night. You do the fecal analysis, and we had a control. It's a real experiment. We know that what they actually feed and what they're actually in the feces, and we calibrate it and provide the tools. It's a very effective way. If you have monkeys or whatever, lizards in your habitats, and you want to know their diet, the environmental DNA is very, very effective. Next slide, please. And I conclude with some slides. Unfortunately, I owe you the videos. They are very nice, but next time. So if you look back, please, back, I want you to know that for many insects, the innocent picture on the left is not as innocent. It's sometimes on the right-hand side from the insect perspective. And still to remain to be seen and tested, what is the importance of the insect herbivores to mammal performance in the field. Next, please. Next, please. Excellent students. I'm sure like you guys over there on the YouTube, they did all this work. Next one, please. Some of them are now PIs, and of course the funding agencies, which is, funding is always short. So we have the Israel Science Foundation, the binational US, United States, Israel Foundation, and the joint foundation by the Israel Academy of Sciences and Chinese Academy of Sciences. Hopefully we will have something of a joint research program with Brazil in the future, who knows. Thank you very much, and I try to make it on time, and sorry for all the trouble.
No problems at all. Now, you have some...
Okay.
Hi. Thank you very much for your talk. We have some questions here from
I'll try to answer.
internet. Just 1 minute.
I cannot see the students.
No, they are on YouTube. They're watching from the YouTube.
It's easier to communicate when you see. Never mind, but it's okay.
Yeah. I understand. But we have some limits here, so that's why we change.
Hakuna Matata.
Okay, so Marina wants to ask you, are the hairs around the mouths of these animals also play a sensory role in food perception, allowing them to detect and avoid potentially toxic items before eating?
Of course. When we blocked with anesthetic cream, we block the hairs as well. So I cannot say whether the hair is more important than the lips itself. The hairs are important. They can avoid even from a longer distance. But in many cases, when there are no many insects around, the lips are important. But definitely the hairs are critical. Sure.
Okay.
Good question.
There's another one. Mariana is saying that your work is fascinating, and she wonders if it has applications for the field of animal breeding and livestock production.
This is one of the slides that I skipped. What's her name? Mariana?
Mariana.
Hi, Mariana. I guess you can see me. I skipped one of the slides because it would take me some time. Think of it. We have a way, and we did it artificially. We can build a machine that we go to alfalfa fields, make a blow of heat and humidity, all the aphids drop to the ground, and then we can suck them out. And making biological control in a very new way with non-toxic materials at all. So yeah, we are working on it. We have a patent, but it's very hard to get into application, but we are working on it. It's a new way. I never heard of something similar to get rid. Don't go at home now and breed on insects and expect all of them to fall down, okay? It should be in a evolutionary, ecologically perspective that it is important. It's not for all aphids, not for all insects. But for the pea aphids, pea aphids are feeding on alfalfa, which are fodder plants. This is the one that cows and everything, they love very much. They are very sensitive. And we can get rid of them to the ground and then suck them out. Yeah.
Very interesting. Okay, I think I'll have one more here. To what extent can insect-induced changes in plant quality act as a pre-filter, influencing mammalian foraging behavior across especially heterogeneous environments?
Of course. And it is very well documented. Usually it's on the other way around, that mammalian would affect the plant that affects insects, but it can be vice versa. But this is out of context of my research because now it's indirect plant-mediated interactions, which is much more common and more important.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see if we have some more questions.
Daniela.
Hi, Moshe, again, thank you very much for your great talk. It's so nice to have you here with us. And I was just wondering first about the plant perspective. And I think that this has to do with the last question that we had. So is it better for the plant being eaten for a small herbivore or a big one? I was just thinking about this dilemma and how to cope with this both herbivores. And I was just wondering about diffuse coevolution between these different herbivores and the plants. So feel free to
Yeah,
talk
sure.
about anything you want about this topic.
Yeah, obviously it's a diffuse interactions because it's not specific hue. Okay, the aphids, it's not aphids and a cow. It could be aphids and hares or rabbits or buffalo or so it's definitely a diffuse, and that's why and vice versa. It doesn't matter if it is this certain caterpillar or a stink bug or anything like that. If they want to avoid, vice versa, it's a general. So it's definitely a diffuse coevolution, not a specific coevolution, no doubt. Now, the magnitude of selection, this is quite confusing, and it will be context dependent, because sometimes when you have chronic herbivory in managed area, that you have herds of mammalian herbivores, so the amount is so tremendous that you cannot compare. In very rare, and of course it's more important, especially when it's chronic. But insects, as you know, in some areas, or higher plants or something like that, or one with thorns that are protected from mammalian herbivores, or they are toxic and being avoided by mammalian herbivores, then insects become more important because they are specialized. One of the most biggest differences between mammalian herbivores and insect herbivores, evolutionary wise, is not the size. It's not the size, because in terms of biomass, insects are much more. It's not the size. The difference is several differences. One, for the insect, the plant is more than a diet.
Mm-hmm.
They sleep there, they overnight there, they mate there, they overwinter, they reproduce, everything. That's one difference. And the second difference, very important one, is most insect herbivores, you know it very well from the neotropics, are specialized.
Yes.
And the mammalian herbivores, the big ones, they are general. So if the plant is toxic, talking about your question now, getting back to your question, if the plant is toxic or with thorns or high enough to avoid mammalian herbivores, then the insects are much more important.
Okay. Yeah. It's very difficult to show really through the experiments diffuse coevolution. Like even pairwise are like a challenge. Yeah.
It's very challenging. Yeah. It's what you've seen here. It's 4 or 5 PhDs for several years.
Yes.
It's very, very hard. And always think about a new approach, a new experiment, block the eyes. I have to show you the videos. I have to visit. Next time.
Very creative methods.
Oops, sorry, Camila?
The methods are very creative.
Yeah, that's critical. But my advice, all the students that are watching me now on the YouTube, the hell, open your eyes. Now you have the AIs writing the papers for you, and you have the statistics, but still open your eyes. You're a scientist. Be creative, think differently, and then use the machine to help you out. But be like hunters for ideas, for events, look at your results, watch your animals and plants, look at them, and read and think differently. Yeah, we were, struggling with the methodology, yes, and we have to find a way. You will find your own way in your system, I'm sure. But start with a good question.
Yeah.
You know, we cannot fight with lots of money in Europe and the Americans. They have money, they have the techniques. We are left out with our imagination, you know,
That's true.
and creativity. That's it.
I have
Yeah.
just one more quick question in case no
Hey,
one
it's
has
okay.
the YouTube.
It's okay. I won't sleep tonight. I can have breakfast in a few minutes.
Camila, how about the YouTube? Is there?
We just have one final question there.
No problem.
Please, YouTube first.
Sure.
Mariana again is asking if there are cases reported in the literature where the proteins of the little animals in the plants are really important for large herbivores.
No, and I'm happy that there is no one like that. Nobody thought of it. And, you know, by the way, and, you know, so, but we framed the hypothesis. I guess that if the feeding will be only incidental, it will be very hard to make a real supplement. We are looking for a way to test it. It's not very easy to do a reliable and, but you know, mammals, they behave, I don't know if you have this kind in the neotropics, I know in the rainforest or something like that, but in Africa, for example, mammalian herbivores will look for feces, they will look to feed on soil to get some minerals. So they are looking for supplements. So maybe, for example, they feed on termite mounds to get some salt from the soil. So maybe sometimes, if it's only incidental, I don't think it will be very, very, very important. But if they will find concentration of insect and phenol, then it could be very important. If Mariana is still with me, I don't think it will be proteins, looking at the quantification, but rather microminerals like iron or sulfur or something like that. The microminerals and not the proteins might be important. Nothing in the literature, and you know, insects are now used to feed animals across the world, so they are very rich in proteins and minerals. So we only framed the hypothesis, but no evidence.
Thank you. I think Daniela has one question.
Just one quick question.
No problem.
I was just wondering about the aphids and other herbivores who get rid from the upper plants, and so they will survive from the larger herbivores. But how about physical or abiotic injuries? Because they, you know, they survive about this pressure, but how about the other pressures? Is a dangerous world anyway.
I must give another seminar when we solve the problem of the video. Okay?
Okay.
I'm volunteering, but not in the middle of the night. Okay? It's already midnight around here before I get home. No, but still, it's a very good. Daniela. There's no problem of injury because the force of gravitation is not affecting the aphids. They won't break their legs. They can drop 2 meters because they are very light. If you calculate the Newton forces, nothing will happen to them. They will, but on the ground, I have to show you the video. On the ground, everybody's waiting for them, the beetles. And if it's hot on the ground, they can die in few, and they have such a wonderful adaptation to avoid the plant or how to act on the plant. You wouldn't believe that it's aphids. But there is no problem of injury. And if they fall with their foot down, they can clean. I have to show you the video. Where is Amanda? We scheduled another seminar that we solved the problem of the video before. It's unbelievable. I'll bring the movies, you'll bring the popcorn.
Okay. It's a deal. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thanks a lot for your talk. We are very happy to have you here. And so to the next time that we can see your videos.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Moshe.